Okay, can I get a motion to reconvene in open session? Moved by Karen Quigley Hobbs, seconded by Sandy Shutts. All those in favor, passed unanimously. Thank you. We're now in open session. Before we begin, we acknowledge that the land in which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Any declarations of community interest from the board members? Seeing none, there's no closed session recommendations. Consent agenda 7.1 to 7.7. Any of these items does the board would like to move off, deal with separately?
Can I ask a question? I'm not looking
Sure.
to move it off.
Yeah. Good. Tony, you can ask a question.
Yeah, it's through you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about this, I'm just having a problem here. The Special Constable Annual Report, there was a comment in it that Staff Sergeant Bex would be taking on a role as a director. And my question is, based as acting director now for the services at the university, the question is he taking on some responsibilities? Like I see him as an employee of the police services, and I'm just wondering, is he taking on any responsibilities or liabilities now as being an acting director within the university context? I don't know who can answer that. I just want to make sure, all our staff are.
Is that a chief? I saw put his hand up. Chief Brown.
Thanks. Good morning, members of the board and Mr. Giovinazzo. The university approached WRPS for this temporary arrangement, and we entered into an enhanced memorandum of understanding related to his role, function, and some adjusted compensation as well. And so we've enjoyed a strong relationship having the embedded staff sergeant, and it was recognized that this was to bridge a gap that was recognized by the university for a temporary period of time. So those considerations for risk, liability, and function have been worked into the arrangement. And we expect that at some point in time, that staffing issue related to the university's planning will revert this back to its original conception.
Yeah. I think you've answered it. Thank you very much, Chief.
Do we have a mover and a second? Okay, so Tony's going to move it since he asked the question, and Jim will second that. All those in favor? Okay, it's passed unanimously. We then go to business arising from the minutes. There is none. Correspondence, there is none. Police services reports, there is none today. But then we move on to police. Oh, sorry, chief of police reports. We'll start with public demonstrations and public order report. Chief, and I think Superintendent Bond is joining as well.
Thanks very much. I'm going to turn the introduction over to Deputy Chief Davis to introduce the next two reports, and we'll go from there. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Chair. Yes, Superintendent Brenda Bond will be presenting both our biannual public demonstrations update, so the number and types of demonstrations that we're responding to, as well as an update on our St. Patrick's Day deployment for 2025. So Brenna, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board, chief, and deputies. I had sent the presentation through. If we could share that. Thank you, Holly. So public order, we've seen a trend of increasing public order deployments. In 2024, we did change the name from the PST to the Public Order Unit. The public safety team was changed. We renamed it in order to align with all of the other teams in the province for provincial terminology. And Our public order unit is responsible for preserving the freedom of peaceful assembly, maintaining law and order, ensuring the safety of the public. There has been a consistent increase in the number of deployments over the past 6 years. Even earlier this week, we had a deployment on Monday night for the school board. In 2020, there were 7 public order deployments, and this number has steadily increased to 36 in 2024. And you can see the display of the increase. And next slide, please. Thank you. POU is a large-scale deployment unit. There's 60 part-time members, and members are specifically trained for protests, demonstrations, and other events when there's a probability of a crowd and potential for unrest or dispute. We are currently doing our annual training this week with our public order members out at West Trek. There's an increasing demand for members, and this has required the addition of team members to the unit. This is a budget impact for initial training and to provide the protective equipment that's issued to new members, and there's new equipment under the CSPA guidelines as well. The cost of adding new members is in addition to each cost of deployment, so that's separate from the numbers. So below is one example of a POU deployment from November 2024. 18 POU members were deployed for a 10-hour period. And again, you can see the costs associated with it. So for that period, it was a costing of $14,972. So some of the highlights from this year's St. Patrick's Day, moving into that, it's a collaborative partnership to deliver exceptional service to our community. Operational partners include the City of Waterloo, Municipal Enforcement Services, Waterloo Paramedic Services, Wilfrid Laurier University, and Waterloo Fire and Rescue. The working group partnered with the post-secondary schools in the region and additional stakeholders that aren't listed. We embrace modernization with the continued use of CCTV cameras. This was a pilot project, and this year we had full deployment of the cameras, and they were extremely successful. There's an increase in citizen-generated calls for service from 71 last year to 108 calls for service this year. So this year, an injunction was granted for the City of Waterloo. We sought and we were granted it between March the 14th to March the 17th from the Superior Court. It provided additional enforcement options for attendees of the unsanctioned event that were in violation of the City of Waterloo's nuisance bylaw. The hope was that the injunction and unified messaging from the City of Waterloo, Waterloo Regional Police, and other stakeholders would serve as a deterrent to the attendees. Individuals chose to ignore the injunction, and in social media posts, what we found was some took it as a challenge or an invitation to attend the unsanctioned event. In accordance with the order, a URL, which is attached, was created with a link to the City of Waterloo website, and the order was posted in the area affected, and messaging went out to the post-secondary education, or to the schools. So these are just some of the pictures. So as we go through them, there's 4 on this slide. This is at approximately 2:40 p.m. So you can see a view of, it's just past, it's on Marshall Street, just past King. And what the crowd was doing initially was they were just circling the block. They were circling Marshall to Weber, just doing a large square of the block. So you can see just different angles from the CCTV cameras of Marshall Street. Next slide, please. So at 2:45, same views. You can see the thickening of the crowd within 5 minutes in the same slides. And again, that's Marshall Street. The apartment building on the corner is Marshall at Regina. So by 4:30 p.m., we were into full operational mode, and this is the heaviest density of the crowd. It expanded from on Marshall Street from King right down to Weber Street this year. Again, we used the CCTV pilot. We set up CCTV cameras in the University District for 4 days. We developed a privacy impact assessment, and we followed provincial guidelines, including the signage that's attached. It was to support operational response to crowd control issues and criminal events. This year, we used priority SIM cards in the remote cell cameras in order to not have the cameras go down due to high cellular volume. And then the public signage was displayed 5 days leading up to the deployment of the cameras. So at the peak, I would estimate the crowd to be approximately 20,000 people. That's just along Marshall Street. There were other party goers or individuals in the immediate university area. Our deployment costs were $308,800. There were 456 occurrences, of which 108 were citizen-generated calls for service. We laid 254 charges compared to 257 in 2024, and we had 17 arrests, which is 7 more than last year. So there's a breakdown of the costs in regards to overtime, our on-duty salaries. We estimated our planning and analysis costs, and then logistics for the total of $308,000. And then finally, you can see the final column in this chart is the 2025 combined charges. They include Liquor License Act, Highway Traffic Act, Criminal Code, Bylaw, TPA. There were 5 Cannabis Control Act, other, which could be any number of charges, and then the 17 arrests and the calls for service for a total of 456 this year compared to, and that's the total through the 14, 15, 16, 17th, which is in comparison to 387 for a shorter deployment period last year. And thank you, and I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, both those. Karen Quigley-Hobbs.
Hi, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Brenna, in terms of the deployment of public order unit, the first report, and the numbers, they seem to be going up fairly regularly between 2020 and 2024. Are we seeing catch up from pre-COVID numbers, or is this just like true acceleration? Were they higher, I guess, my point, pre-COVID?
For public order deployments, no, that's just a steady increase. It would have increased from pre-COVID. It wasn't pre-COVID high and then a dip and then up again. This is just based on the current climate.
Oh, okay. So I guess my point is, like, are we just like, were they high before and then we had the dip and now we're catching up, or we're seeing just acceleration?
Just an acceleration, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chief, if you could get your hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that question. This is a trend that we're seeing right across the province, not unique to Waterloo region. We all follow the news. We've seen, certainly an upswell in the GTA related to geopolitical events, but most large jurisdictions are seeing the same rate of public gatherings, demonstrations, and so on. And so there's a lot of coordinated efforts from a public order standpoint. There's currently 11, likely soon to be 12 services that provide public order deployments in addition to the OPP and so on. So a lot of coordinated efforts, but we're not alone.
Polarized times.
Any questions? I've got a couple comments. I'd say, Chief, we've had this conversation, seems like every year around St. Patty's Day. I appreciate the report from Brenna. We can't, and I think your comment, I tend to agree with this, is we can't police our way out of the event. But until it's ended, police need to manage the event, and it's a huge drain on resources. And the numbers that we saw in the report only capture the cost to WRPS. That's $308,000 that it costs this service to manage that event. I wanted to ask specifically about the OPP, because I know there was an OPP public order unit that was there. That cost is not included because we have reciprocals. Or I would like to ask a question: is that included in our tally, or is that's an expenditure for other ratepayers across the province?
That's correct, and there may be times I lean on the experts here, but it is correct that the OPP participation was not an incurred cost. There is scalability for any public order deployments where oftentimes we're using reciprocal partnership agreements, and there are times where fee for service is required because of public order deployments being stretched across the province and the strategy of using these finite resources.
I guess the point trying to get at is this is the thin edge of the wedge of how expensive it is for university students in a mob-like way, take over the streets for St. Patty's Day, and it's outrageous. Let me go, last year we had this same conversation, and I think we've made some progress, and kudos to the city of Waterloo for, putting the injunction in place, and I think in your report, you and Brenna and the team have said there was some value worth building on, as long as this event goes on, or this unsanctioned mob continues to gather. Maybe talk about that, because I think the city deserves credit. This is the first time we've done that. We probably can learn from it and help to manage the risk down. I'd like your thoughts on that.
So I'll start, and then I might ask Deputy Davis or Superintendent Bond just to add some complimentary words. But I mean, when you look at 4 days of deployment, this is a considerable stretch of our total resources. So although there's many successes here in terms of no major injuries, no major property destruction, and the disruptions were minimized as much as possible, I concur that the risk, the cost, and the strain on public safety resources is considerable. And to deploy over that period of time, in addition to all the other emergencies and stretches and strains across the region, this is a major concern for us moving forward. I might add for Deputy Davis just to provide some commentary about the partnership with the City of Waterloo. There are certainly debriefings that have occurred and further to come as we look to planning for next year.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. I would just echo the comments that the Chief has already said. I don't think anyone looked at the injunction as being an absolute. I definitely think it was seen as another tool to try to keep looking for different things that we can do to try and help mitigate some of the risk and this to community, but also the strain on policing and other emergency service partners. A big part of the injunction and the education piece that we really tried to do with the public was around recognizing that, and hopefully the injunction serving as a deterrent for people showing up. It's unfortunate and disappointing that it was not received that way, and instead we saw people ignoring the real reasons that the injunction was put in place, which is really truly the most unfortunate part of this. But again, I mean, we do also see that the injunction helped to curb behavior of people that were coming. And although I don't want to say that is the success of it, it was helpful to see that it helped curb behavior. But we need to continue looking at opportunities to limit the impact of St. Patrick's Day in the incoming years.
Okay, and I guess, when you see that, it wasn't exactly the video, but the pictures from the CCTV video, this was organized, whether it was informal or not. At 2:05 or 2:10, there's on the streets kind of wandering around, and at 2:45 and then up to 4:30, there's 25,000 people on the street. I mean, it was clearly, that's your assessment. I would say it's obvious that it was organized. Again, whether it's informal or not is irrelevant. It's irresponsible. It goes in the face of the injunction that the city had put in place, and it goes against public safety. And I guess the question I have, one of the issues that I think was raised in the report, we had some conversation, is you notice that there's issues around when you got that many people. Even things like cell phones don't work properly when you got that many people. So the public safety issues go well beyond the students themselves. It could impact someone at home who's having a medical event or has an issue trying to get in touch with police, and cell service is compromised because of that many people in one place. Streaming the party, etc. And talk about some of those things that are. This isn't just about wandering around and sort of the student party. There are real world impacts on the community and other elements of community safety.
I don't mind starting with that one, Chair, and then I can maybe turn it over to Brenna for anything additional that's operationally related. But you know, when we're talking about public safety, one of the biggest things is that when the students actually came onto Marshall Street, that's all of a sudden where our response has to shift to public safety. And the very first thing that we try and do in those cases is bring in archer barriers that actually prevent traffic from being able to pass through on those roadways. We want to ensure that no one is injured or struck by vehicles that are coming in. You speak to cell phone reception, and that's not just for the public, which is a huge concern, but it's also for our members, bylaw members, et cetera, that are actually on the ground trying to call into the command center, knowing that reception is limited as well. So looking at how we actually improve that. So there are a number of things, risks that need to be considered from a public safety standpoint, but also on behalf considerations for our members that are actually on the ground. And Bren, I'll turn it over to you for anything additional that you can add.
Thanks, Deputy. Just adding to what the Deputy said in regards to the barriers, one of our first operational responsibilities is to close the street to ensure that no one's struck by a vehicle. This year we ran out of archer barriers. We didn't have enough due to the size of the street stretching from Marshall and King all the way down to Weaver Street. So there was additional access and egress that we had to put cruisers at, staff with police officers, which then decreased the number of resources that we had. I do recognize that there was more access and egress so that we could get paramedics in and out should we need to. And there was one instance where the members carry the person to paramedics. So we do have that positive, I would consider it. But yeah, there was a lot, and it took until 4:30 for us to get that street completely contained and secured so that we could move on with our next operational decisions.
So, and I get, again, the city of Waterloo trying something new, and I think it's now, what are the other partners willing and able to do? And I guess my fear has always been less than how disruptive it is and, the inconvenience to people. It is, I really do fear the circumstance, and it's, you look at those pictures, it's not hard to imagine where something happens and there's panic in the crowd for whatever reason. And there will be people lying in the streets, and that should just be a totally unacceptable proposition that this community should not tolerate. So that's the big fear from my perspective, because I think it's shared by many in the community. And I guess, Chief, maybe this is for you. You're and your team have done a great job of partnering with everyone that needs to be at the table. Is it time to involve the heads of the universities and the mayor of Waterloo and who needs to be around the table? Because I hear from people in the community, as an example, I don't know the efficacy of these, but folks are saying, well, why don't they just change reading week so it's over St. Patty's Day? A lot of the students would be elsewhere if they had reading week that week, or change exam schedules or periods, or charge the students. If it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and they insist on doing it, then let's say we are going to manage the risk by paying to bring in the OPP public order unit. And if it's going to cost $600,000 or $700,000, charge the students a fee, because if it's so important to have St. Patty's Day, then it should be so important to do it safely, and that it isn't on the public dime. So this is coming from the community where people are saying, how do we manage this to be reasonable on all sides? What's next so that we are prepared and build on whatever successes we've had this year, but ultimately it has to end. I mean, that's the only result that can be acceptable, certainly to me, I think to the community, and we have to keep trying new things until we get to that point. So what do you think the next things are that you and staff, and what support can either this group or the community give you to make sure we get to closer to that end point, which is it not happening in the first place?
So we certainly have agreement that the status quo is not acceptable from a risk, cost, and strain on resources perspective. There's still some further debriefing with our partners on the report card. The years of recommendations that have led to this year's practices and deployment still require some further evaluation, and those are closed conversations. But we have exhausted previous recommendations, and I think your challenge and your concerns about what new solutions, what new levels of intervention need to be on the table, and who needs to be driving those conversations is an open conversation. So we will continue to work with the participating agencies. We will come back to the board to provide you with a roadmap into future deployments. And beyond St. Patrick's Day, there are also other major events that have elements of concern for us as well, just beyond this one single event. And we know that draws a lot of attention and concern, but there are other similar events within the city of Waterloo and beyond that require our utmost consideration to manage and to plan for. So we will bring that back to the board, with your concerns front and center, and we will look for new solutions to, as you've put it, put an end to any risk associated with any of these large gatherings, including St. Patrick's Day. Yeah.
President Scott, thank you, Chief. I think that's very helpful. We'll look forward to hearing back, and whatever resources or help that you need, we'll be happy to do that. Doug.
Well, I think, Mr. Chair, that all of us sitting up as board members certainly echo your comments, okay, as a board. And I think also as we look forward to the future, the probability of something happening that's going to be happening in terms of hurting individuals or different some sort of small catastrophe within these crowds is the probability is getting higher and higher. And so it's not just a WRPS responsibility, it's a community responsibility. And I come back to your comments on that, which includes the universities, which includes the students themselves. So we move forward, we will do what we can, but certainly we have to look at it as a community responsibility in supporting us in mitigating this. Okay.
Absolutely. Appreciate those comments. Okay, thank you, Brenna and Chief and others. Appreciate the background and the report on that. Okay, I think we're still in Chief Police. I think we got Hassan and Eddie Inspector Lewis on quarterly use of force statistics. Do you want to? Who's introducing that? Chief.
Deputy Fenton.
Deputy Fenton.
Good morning, Chair McLean and members of the board. So yes, you'll recall last meeting we had the end of year use of force reports and race and identity-based data, and here we are as the calendar grinds on, and we're ready to do Q1 again. So here with the Q1 report is Inspector Eddie Lewis and Dr. Hassan Siddiqui, which includes our race and identity-based data analysis as well. So over to you. I believe Eddie's going to kick it off.
Great, thank you, Deputy. Good morning, Chair McLean, members of the board, Chief Cole, and Deputy Davis. If Hassan is going to be the magician that turns the screen, thank you, sir. We'll get started. I know you have a busy day. This presentation covers data from use of force reports from January 1st of this year up to March 31st. We'll be talking about reportable incidents that refer to incidents that require the use of force either by legislation or by procedure. Just a reminder for the board that these reports do go through several layers of scrutiny, including at the division and through the training and education branch. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. For the Q1, we did see 81,421 police occurrences that resulted in 3,478 arrests. Use of force incidents did increase very slightly from 111 to 114 in this quarter. The number of modernized use of force reports decreased, however, from 198 in Q4 down to 168. Important as always to keep in mind that the proportion of police interactions involving force has stayed the same at 0.1%. Next slide. Great, thank you. Incident types. So the graph that you see will depict the number of use of force reportable incidents separated by incident type. Consistent with what we've seen in the past, the The primary call that generates the majority of reports are weapons calls, followed by warrant execution and persons in crisis. Next slide, please. Thank you. Use of force options. In Q1 relative to Q4 of last year, we observed a decrease in the number of incidents where a handgun was pointed. Although no difference was noted in the number of incidents where a handgun was drawn only. There was also a decrease in the number of incidents where a rifle was drawn or pointed. Next slide. Great. Thank you very much. For CEWs. So overall, we observed an increase in the number of incidents where a CEW was used. This increase was especially noted when comparing incidents to where a CEW was pointed between Q4 and Q1. And I think this is my last slide before I turn it over. Summary of subject injuries. So in Q1, there were 6 minor subject injuries. A reminder that those injuries can be injuries that did not require admittance to hospital. So things like abrasions, stitches, or even puncture wounds. There was 1 serious injury that was reported for this report in Q1. I believe, Hassan, will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Inspector Lewis. Thank you, Deputy Chief Chair McLean, and members of the board for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm so thankful today that I even dressed up just for you. So in Q1, there were 18 perceived Black individuals in use of force incidents. This corresponds to 19% of all individuals. There were 8 perceived Middle Eastern individuals in use of force incidents. This corresponds to 8% of all individuals. And white individuals were again the most represented group in use of force incidents, totaling 57 individuals, which represents 59% of all individuals. Black individuals were overrepresented in use of force reports by a factor of 3.96. This is relative to 3.83 in 2024. Middle Eastern individuals were overrepresented in use of force reports by a factor of 2.73 relative to 2.33. Lastly, there was no evidence of racial disparity in use of force reports. The highest benchmark value was for Black individuals at 0.32, which is still far below the threshold of evidence for disparity at 1.5. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Okay, questions, comments from the board? Thank you, Hassan and Inspector Lewis. Don't think we have anything. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for that. Next item is 11.4, community safety and well-being, the youth diversion pilot. I'm going to take a guess that that's Chief Crowell or some one of the deputies and Inspector Mathias.
Thanks very much. Yeah, we're proud to provide this month's feature report for the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan commitment. So Inspector Mathias is going to provide a brief presentation regarding an initiative with some good news on traction and some success. Over to you, Aaron. Thanks.
Chief, share my screen. So, well, good morning, Chief, Chair McLean, and members of the board. Very pleased to join you this morning to provide a brief overview of youth diversion, along with an update to the Youth Diversion Partnership, an initiative with Crow Shield Lodge and Starling Community Services. The Waterloo Regional Police Service Youth Engagement Strategy has prioritized Youth Criminal Justice Act pathways to diversion as an action under the Community and Youth Safety priority. And optimizing our youth diversion efforts represents a significant opportunity for our membership to contribute to meaningful and improved outcomes for youth who may be in conflict with the law by connecting them with appropriate and evaluated diversion opportunities, with the intent that our future interactions are positive and not related to any type of recontact or similar offending behavior. I'd like to bring Youth Criminal Justice Act diversions into greater focus for us and to quickly review their purposes as outlined in the Act. The YCJA outlines that members of society share a responsibility to address challenges and needs of a young person and guide them to adulthood. Communities, families, parents, and providers are encouraged to use a multidisciplinary approach to prevent youth crime and address its underlying causes. Additionally, the Act is committed to the rehabilitation and reintegration of young people through timely and meaningful interventions. In addition, we look to provide guidance and support to those at risk of committing crime. And we know that pre-charge diversion or extrajudicial measures fall along a spectrum of no further action, a warning, a caution, or a referral that can be made by an officer who may be diverting a young person. And when we consider the concepts of community safety well-being and working collaboratively towards important goals, as I continue to give similar youth-focused presentations, I remind our partners that each of us has a significant role to play in the development of youth. And while this particular legislation covers ages 12 to 17, the opportunity rests with the community more largely to create meaningful and caring relationships with young people in advance of these ages and to prevent negative police contact. To provide a current landscape of diversions, the following slide outlines our rates of number of individual youth between the ages of 12 to 17 who received a pre-charge diversion for a criminal code offense over a 5-year period. Between 2020 and 2024, WRPS experienced a large increase of individual youth being diverted under the Youth Criminal Justice Act by approximately 60%. And we see a stabilization between 2023 and 2024 with 615 and then 609 individual youth diversions. Our rates of referral of youth who received a pre-charge diversion remained at approximately 20% between 2023 and 2024, which provides us a significant opportunity to improve the number of youth who can have access to meaningful or directed programming. Our current referral partner is the John Howard Society, who provides a series of evaluated programs designed to address specific behaviors or offenses, and also have the ability to refer to external agencies which can provide focused mental health supports or relevant cultural programs. And as a service, we're taking steps to improve our overall referral rates as we look to an upcoming directive that will instruct our members to ensure a referral is made at minimum by the third pre-charge diversion within a 12-month period. This ensures our interactions with youth are leading into meaningful resources and connects them to programs designed to help them change negative trajectory. And as we know, one such culturally supportive program which exists and was introduced to the board last November is the Eagle's Nest program led by Clarence Kakagi and his team at Crow Shield Lodge. Very thankful to them for inviting us to play a supporting role in this initiative alongside our friends at Starling Community Services. This pilot program was funded by the Region of Waterloo Building Safer Communities Fund and was selected by a youth decision-making team as a funding recipient, reinforcing the need for such culturally meaningful programs in our community. Pardon me. The Indigenous Youth Diversion Pilot provided Indigenous youth with land-based learning, mentorship, and support from youth workers, and fosters meaningful connections with Indigenous elders, peers, nature, and aiming to rekindle cultural identity and pride. To review our service activity in the pilot, in addition to the clear benefits of the resource for youth, through this partnership, our service sought to develop a broadened cultural understanding of the local Indigenous community, identify areas where the service can advance meaningful reconciliation, and identify additional opportunities for youth to participate in WRPS programming. Beginning on November 26th of 2024, we provided a dedicated staffing resource for each week of the program, which concluded on March 25th of this year, totaling 16 engagements. Throughout this time, a WRPS officer attended each session in plain clothes and sought to establish meaningful relationships with the involved youth while assisting in the delivery of programming as requested by Crow Shield Lodge. During this time, we saw a cohort of 3 to 5 youth, depending on the week, receiving supports and programming, which included learnings of medicine wheel, medicine bags, traditional medicines, skills development, engagement with elders, fire keepers, fire ceremonies, drumming circles, and overall athletic and physical activities. We also successfully introduced and connected John Howard Society and Coral Shield Lodge to ensure that youth who may benefit from this program have access through major diversion providers. Observations anecdotally made by WRPS membership that attended the program was that it created meaningful change and had clear impact with the youth, with staff noting the importance of skill building programming that offers community, support, and connection that ties youth to their roots. And lastly, we recognize that the invitation to support this program has allowed the service to take some initial steps towards making authentic reconciliation. We're in a position to advance calls to action number 38, reducing overrepresentation of Indigenous youth in custody, as well as call to action number 57, which is education for public servants on Indigenous issues. In terms of next steps, and as the pilot drew to a close, a series of recommendations will be developed in terms of our ongoing involvement and support of the program, and to ensure that the service participates in any upcoming evaluation process. Additionally, we will continue to advocate and assist our partners in the community in support of youth-focused programs, which act as both prevention and diversion from the criminal justice system. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Chair.
Thank you for the presentation. This, I recognize it's a pilot project. It has all the earmarkings of a best practice to me. One of the trends that we see as board members is that so many youth are involved from outside of the region. And they come in and they're sort of recruited by gangs, and they come in and they perpetrate crimes. This clearly is the kind of community value, this upstream intervention for youth and diversion that is so important. I'm assuming that this pilot project is just for youth that live within the region of Waterloo that fit this category. So I'm just wondering, what are we doing to make sure that other jurisdictions know about this best practice? And I'm assuming that you have to live in the region to participate in this. So kind of two-pronged question.
Thanks. Although Inspector Mathias could answer it really well, I'll jump in and just to say your point is well taken. And part of what we're committing ourselves to right now, this was a very successful pilot, and as you said it very well, it has the earmarks of future success. What we're committed to now is building out replications of this through pre-charge and post-charge diversion programs. And so for those youth that will be involved with us in the criminal justice system, we do hope to build out partnerships and opportunities that will extend to those outside of our jurisdiction as well, to ensure that there's advantages to everyone involved to finding those diversionary options. Frequently, some of the highest level of violence and concerns that I know that are top of mind, robberies, auto thefts, other forms of violence, those may be best suited for some of the traditional criminal justice measures that are in place. But there is a ample opportunity for those early interventions with young people, both in and outside of our region, to build diversionary options such as this one. So we're highlighting a single program that's been successful, but Chair Edmund, your point's well taken. How do we multiply this within our region and beyond? And there's lots of runway with all of it.
Thank you.
Karen,
Yes, thanks for the presentation. It's exciting to see pieces of the plan start to come to fruition. Question in terms of future design, will there be some long-term indicators that are incorporated so that we can see what the impact of the diversion is more on the long-term life of the individual?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, through you, Chief. Thank you for the question. I'm happy to follow up to obtain any specifics on that. I realize there is a component of evaluation that will be run as a function of the public health funding that was received.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions, comments? Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate the report. I think that's it for the reports and moving into item 12.0, the monthly chief release report. Over to you, Chief Crowell.
Thanks, Chair McLean, members of the board. Proud to provide the monthly Chief of Police report, looking back into March and the beginning of April. To provide an update to the board, and we had a reported shooting incident that occurred in early March, where a 30-year-old male was shot and received significant injuries, but non-life-threatening injuries. And as a result of a tenacious investigation, 21 days later, our major crime unit, with the assistance of Durham Regional Police, arrested 2 individuals in connection with the investigation that are now facing charges. So the investigation will be ongoing, but really want to compliment the team for their resolution of this alarming incident. Along similar lines, we had an overnight shooting incident in Kitchener on April 9th, where a 44-year-old male was located with gunshot wounds and transported to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. We are continuing this investigation with our investigative teams, and we are seeing this as a targeted incident, but we are, through our crime suppression efforts, focused on shooting incidents as a top priority within our community. I want to highlight a trend in retail thefts that has caught the attention of the public and media. And so we've had some very successful intervention in disrupting organized crime groups that involved in a number of food and other retail related theft rings. And so there was a number of concurrent butter and ghee related theft incidents that occurred across Waterloo region. And we have successfully intervened and made multiple arrests for such thefts. And we're continuing the investigation, looking for the public's assistance to identify the 2 individuals featured on the screen here. And this is a trend of many commodities that are being sought, stolen, and then trafficked through black market and out of market opportunities. So we just want to highlight our commitment to retail thefts overall, and the work of our investigative teams working within this region and beyond from a solvability perspective. Also want to highlight some great work related to motor vehicle thefts. We had a successful intervention where 2 individuals have been charged with attempted thefts, again, organized crime behavior related to motor vehicle thefts, where a 23-year-old and a 26-year-old GTA pair have been charged with multiple counts of motor vehicle theft activity. And working with our partners within the Greater Toronto area, we continue to try to put a dent in motor vehicle thefts at large. So want to give credit to our break, enter, and vehicle theft team and the work that they're doing to thwart this type of behavior. Looking at road safety efforts as we turn into the spring weather soon, we hope our road safety efforts, our enforcement, our visibility will be very apparent. You can see displayed throughout the month of March our commitment to a number of fatal 4 offenses and a lot of activity on our roadways, not only with motor vehicles, but heading into the season of motorcycles and other forms of active transportation. Very alarming, one single night, April 4th, within about 45 minutes, we had 4 different impaired charge related investigations where 4 different individuals were found to be under the influence of alcohol. And this speaks to the concern we have about impaired by alcohol and drug offenses that continue to occur, but also want to give credit to our patrol and traffic services teams that are out there striving to prevent and intervene in this alarming behavior. Also want to give kudos to members of our service that are hosting a 3-day hate crime conference. The first 2 days were very successful in bringing over 30 police agencies from across Ontario and some other public safety agencies as well Today is a community day where we're hosting a number of partners from across Waterloo region under the umbrella of the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan and our commitment to combating hate, but also joined by our partners from Canadian Race Relations Foundation, the HICIT team, and the University of Waterloo to feature best practices, learning and sharing, and our commitment to hate crime intervention. I want to give some recognition for our Junior Chief for a Day contest. We are launching an opportunity to have a new junior chief and deputies to join us on June 10th. There's a contest now open to grade 5 and 7 students that can join us with a new, fresh, ambitious vision for leadership in policing in Waterloo region. So we look forward to hosting them in short order. So the contest is open to students until May 13th as we celebrate Police Week. So look forward to presenting that new leadership team to the board in the weeks to come. Also want to recognize that we were very proud to receive recognition from the United Way at the recent 7th Annual Spirit Awards. WRPS was recognized with the Spirit of Community Award, looking at our total membership commitment to exceptional community spirit, teamwork, and generosity through a number of United Way initiatives. So very proud to be recognized and the work that our members are doing to give a lift up to those in our community. And we greatly value our partnership with the United Way. Want to recognize an announcement made today that our community has provided input for the naming of our newest K9 member. Bauer will be joining our special response K9 team immediately, and the community gave an outpouring of over 3,700 votes to help us define the new name for our newest and proudest member of the team. And finally, just wanting to recognize with the turn of the season, we will continue to be engaged with many educational, celebratory, and community engagement opportunities throughout March, heading into April, and then looking into May. We know that the weather will bring our community rallying about many points of celebration, fundraising, and engagement. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present a snapshot of our members' activity. And thank you for the board's support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I think we'll leave it to Councillor Craig to be in touch with Greg DeRoche to make sure our young entrepreneurs in Cambridge are members of the Chamber of Commerce, but I'll leave that for you to take offline.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the chief preempted me. I was going to bring up the Spirit Awards, and I thought it was a great accomplishment in terms of your team. The competition and the other organizations that were in that category was very impressive. And I just felt really proud of yourself and the team and everything that you've accomplished in terms of highlighting the best aspects of WRPS. And the way you spoke at Tapestry Hall in terms of your thankfulness for being acknowledged, I think came across very well. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair.
I have a question. I don't know if it's more appropriate under new business, but I would have to say as a board member and as chair of the region, I'm always very proud of this police force, the leadership, the rank and file, and the involvement with the community. There's been a lot of talk lately about our border and border security, and I'm wondering, Chief, if you could talk just a little bit. I'm hoping that we're involved. From south of the border, they were talking about the flow of fentanyl, which I think is a bit of a specious argument. However, I know from our side of the border, it often is about people coming across illegally as well as guns, and it plays hugely into how you provide a safe community for everyone. Can you talk just a little bit? Are you involved in any way in those conversations? I know the border is thickening, and I'm hoping that one of the things that happens is it stems the tide of illegal guns coming from the States.
Thanks, Chair Redmond. I am proud to say that we are at the table for those conversations. So being the 6th largest municipal police service in Ontario, we are well integrated with intelligence networks, and our partners at the national provincial level are mobilized. And so there are recurring meetings, touch points, looking at the impacts of border security, the drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, and the flow of people as well. Given that we have one of the largest and busiest airports in Canada as well, that is a point of activity and vulnerability that is recognized within this region, but right across Canada. There are efforts being made to really look at those as points of concern as well. So there's a lot of public discussion about required investments from a Canadian Border Service standpoint, the national police efforts, as well as our provincial policing partners. Where I can say with full frankness is we are collaborating and working better than we ever have before. And despite all the politics and polarization of many issues today, I can say from a policing and public safety community, WRPS is at the table, and we're helping to contribute and also drive some important conversations that impact the citizens of this region and beyond. And we appreciate the board's support because there are levels of risk that impact us greatly when it comes to gun violence, human trafficking, drug trafficking. All of these are interconnected issues, and the border point at large is a significant factor in driving the activity that impacts our region.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Sandy?
Yeah, thank you. Just thank you to Chief Curl, Staff Sergeant Griffiths, and Sergeant Heiser, David Mullock, who came and answered our township questions last night. Just presented on some of the safety issues that are of concern to the township. So very much appreciated that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just as a comment, I at the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival, hosting in Village Township, but I have to say, as bad as the chamber team did in the pancake relay contest, we distanced the police service by quite some margin. And I do think that you'll have to have some exemptions for to have your safety boots on and try and have the flipper on to move it to the tennis racket, to move it to the, anyways, for those that haven't seen it, look at it online, it's kind of funny, the police were there, and it was, but thank you to Merchants and everyone that puts on the Elmira Maple Syrup Festival. There was lots of presence by our auxiliary officers or speaking with public safety with big gatherings planned. And so thank you to the chief and his gang and our auxiliary officers for doing such a great job. Was it April 5th?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And then we get around 60,000 people on a day.
You had crowd control.
We had crowd control.
Well, weather's always a crowd control, but even in the weather was a little off, but we had a big turnout, so it was great.
Yeah, it was well attended.
If I can just comment on the K9, the newest member of WRPS, my colleague Karen Quigley Hobbs was thrilled that Bauer was chosen because that was her name. And I don't want to be political, but I'm wondering, is it the right or left Bauer?
Oh, yeah, that's good. I hadn't thought of that. Listen, thanks so much for all the you and your team giving us all the information we need as a board. Appreciate that. If there's nothing further, I think we're no new business, future agenda items. And for the media, once we've adjourned, members of the media have a separate Zoom login, and the chief and myself will be available to take questions. But with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Doug and seconded by Sandy. All those in favor? Thanks very much. Have a great day, everyone.